Thank you for joining the Dougherty County Board of Commissioners Commission meeting. Your Dougherty County Board of Commissioners is chaired by Christopher Cohelas. Your Dougherty County Commissioners include, from District 1, Lamar Hudgens; from District 2, Victor Edwards; from District 3, Clinton Johnson; from District 4, Russell Gray; from District 5, Gloria Gaines; and from District 6, Anthony Jones. We are also joined by County Administrator Michael McCoy, Assistant County Administrator Scott Addison, County Clerk Juwan Ware, and County Attorney Spencer Lee. This is your Dougherty County Board of Commissioners Commission meeting.
I am here, but there's a terrible echo.
I'm here. Jones.
Yeah, I was having technical difficulties. I'm sorry.
That's
I don't
all
know what
right.
was wrong.
Hey, okay. All right, so for the record, Madam Clerk, following will be the announcements with respect to those that are present. Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Gaines are present via teleconference. Commissioner Edwards, Hudgens, and Chairman Cohilas are via in-person meeting. I've called the meeting to order. We will begin the public hearing for the proposed tax increase of 0.57% for the countywide digest and the proposed tax increase of 0.39% for the special services digest. The millage rates remain the same as last year. That is an important distinction. The countywide millage rate is 15.569 and the special services millage rate is 9.1730. Those wishing to speak for or against this item should sign the sign-up sheet located on the table. I have two folks that have signed up. That is Bert Newcomb and William Wright. I'll call on Mr. Newcomb. He's the person that's on the list. Mr. Newcomb.
Mr. Chairman, one quick announcement. Can everyone else hit *6 or mute your phone? I'm getting some conversation in the background.
That would be very helpful. If everyone that's on the phone would just mute their phone, that would be very helpful. Thank you. All right, Mr. Newcomb, good morning.
In the middle of a pandemic, when people are losing income, jobs, and lives, it doesn't seem like any time to raise any values or anything on prices. I mean, to me, there's a lot better things we can do in Dougherty County. And to me, you're not even going after the $5 million in back property taxes that you have. So why should you increase the property taxes on the people who already pay the property taxes? You're essentially going to punish the people who pay the property taxes, but you're not going to go after the people that are $5 million in back taxes on the tax revenue. I mean, some of these people have lived in a house over 10 years, they've lived there scot-free, nothing's happened to them, and then you're not going to go after them, you're not going to do nothing to them, but you're going to raise property taxes on the people who already pay their property taxes. It seems to me if you're not going to go after the people who don't pay the property taxes, then maybe nobody should pay the property taxes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. All right, Mr. Wright. Morning, Mr. Wright.
And for the record, I'm lost. But this pandemic is forcing that. Mr. Chair and members of this commission, you have a handout comment. And just as Mr. Newcomb spoke, one of the things we want to bring to the first thing the commission needs to do is tell the public how much is a meal expected to generate. And then we can better represent what this 0.57 or perhaps it should be 0.057. Because when you run the calculation, what you're doing does not make good sense. The reason for that is simply this: if there's not another zero that goes there, the 0.057 will only generate about $12,000. So something is wrong somewhere. But in the first paragraph, can the chairman or one of the commissioners tell the public how much is a meal supposed to generate? What is anticipated for 2021? Can anyone give an answer to that? All right, the calculations that we have done is based on that. If you take that 0.57 times 2 million, you'll get about $14,000. Now, you would not be down here doing all this with no $14,000 if something was wrong. In the first paragraph pointed out, when you look at that, the county, the city, and the Board of Education are trampling Georgia's sunshine law. The sunshine laws were put in place to keep public government open and with oversight. You're having all these secret meetings, just like you have kept a tough time trying to get the mechanics and the technology right. What do you think we have at home? We were trying to zero in on a meeting. It seems like you want to hold secret meetings and use the pandemic as an excuse to do that. That's what OCGA 50 that 14-60 was about. Keep government open so it can be oversight, so the public can have some say about what you're doing and why you're doing it. When you look at paragraph 2, you see that. And in that second line, the companion 50-18, that should be 70, not 80. When you look at that, the county, the city, and the Board of Education are working in isolation and secrecy. Our local governments are using the pandemic as an excuse for ignoring altogether or trampling over Georgia's Sunshine Law. That is, the Sunshine Law was not put in place where you just treat it like you're going to your wallet or your pocketbook. So, oh, we'll use the Sunshine Law now. But we operate almost 6 months in secrecy. Almost 6 months. And when the framers of the Constitution put the Constitution together, it took them 20 years because they realized this kind of thing would happen. Too few people making significant decisions without any oversight. And that was a significant reason for that when we look at that. Just trampling over Georgia's Sunshine Law. And there's no superseded laws in place to say, well, you can use the Sunshine Law on this occasion, but you cannot use another. Now, if we look at Major League sports, the one we're told about is the NBA uses the bubble. Well, sometimes the bubble is taken out of context, but we have to recognize when the CDC and other people putting this protection in place, in a figurative sense, the 6 feet that they're talking about, so congested as a bubble, because that seems to be the circumference of area that you need your first line of protection. The mask and the shield are just secondary devices. So if the county wanted to do it, have a facilities department, the city shot the facilities department from the county, and the Board of Education have a facilities department, why can't you not put together a bubble and hold these meetings public like they're supposed to be and they were intended to be? Not just have something like this. And one of the things about this proposed increase that you're talking about, whether it's back door, front door, or side door, you also live within your means. What that means is, instead of talking about keeping this money, you need to be returned to the public. Why? Because you hit us 3 years ago, whopping 25% tax increase. This is a turn to returning when we're in the pandemic, not to be reaching and grabbing more money just because it's there. And we point that out to you in paragraph 3 about the Sunshine Law. Let us go to the next page. As has been pointed out, we need to know what the mill would generate absent the increase of the so-called backdoor tax increase. That is, if the mill generates $2 million for a mill, the yield will be somewhere between $20,000. Whereas if the increase is truly 0.057, we'll be looking at gross revenues of about $114,000. So it depends on where the zero is the point we'll make it here. But still, that does not supplant or displace the fact that the county and the city and the Board of Education need to live their means and start to turn some of this money back. You cannot have people continually losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing everything they have, and then you still grabbing for $100,000. Now, if you look at the next paragraph, think about this. You've operated a half year more in secrecy, and you should have been saving money. Why? Well, in paragraph 4, we point that out. You shouldn't have been buying as much paper, you wouldn't be buying as much fuel, and your other O&M costs, they're not there. You haven't had to buy toiletries for going to the restroom, and especially when you look at fuel, and you should be buying all these SUVs and CUVs, because the amount of criminals that we are supposed to be catching is just not there to justify these huge costs. And you should have a lot of unanticipated revenue because your employees are not here, so your utility costs should not be as high. Your O&M cost savings would more than offset this little $114,000 you're talking about. Something is terribly wrong. But and this may be the reason you're having all these secret meetings, because you don't want the public to know that. You're not having to pay as much overtime, anything like that. So we know O&M typically can be 60-75% of the budget. And when we look at the sheriff office, it takes up about 25% of the budget. So those things should not be bearing the pandemic. So you need to be looking at returning this $114,000, whatever it is, instead of keeping it, to go and buy more CUVs and SUVs that are sorely not needed. So we pointed that out to you there in the second paragraph there, page 2. And again, you see the savings that have been identified there, and these are just some of them. If you've been holding these meetings public, there'll be more savings. You need to live within your means. You need to turn the money back to the public, especially since it's a small amount of money. And in the next paragraph, it explains to you when the frames of the Constitution put together. Now, we know they were not talking about African American and black people. I'm not here to make a case for that. But what I'm saying is for the colonists who were not treated like nothing, that was the reason it took 20 years to get a constitution that they could agree on. Because they had distrust, just like the public has distrust, with the way you handle business. No oversight, dispense with whatever you want, when you will, and if you will. It took 20 years to do that. The framers recognized how dangerous it was to concentrate power in the hands of just a few people without any public oversight or support. This is where our local government have us in the county, in the city, and the Board of Education, holding secret meetings, having technical differences to make things work. And we don't have a technician we can call most of us at home, straighten things out when it's a mess. That just signals something to you that you don't need to be trying to do this. Hold the meetings public, and then that would displace a lot of this. And the last paragraph there, we are treated to some degree like we're supposed to be fools and don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah, you create an atmosphere of apprehension and reserve about the way you attempt to run this business, but we're just asking you, live within your means. In the case of many in the public, don't have any means, or don't have any revenue come in. And one of the things, Chairman Cohilas, you and your counterparts need to be careful about telling people in a figurative way that they are not nothing. What am I talking about? When you said that those businesses like the barbershop and the beauty shop, that you were non-essential.
I never said that, and you're not going to sit there and say that. I didn't say barbershops, they were non-essential.
All we got to do is go back to the record.
I'm going to talk.
We can go back to the record.
You can come to order, Mr. Wright. You're not going to do that today. You're not going to ascribe something to me that I never said and that this commission never said. Go ahead and proceed.
Well, the quotation was, it was not essential.
No, that was not the quotation. You just made that up, Mr. Wright. You're trying to catch a headline,
I don't have
and I
time
know
to make
you.
anything
Go ahead,
up.
proceed.
You cannot be a judge and jury and everything else when you want to. I didn't have any reason to make anything up. I know what I heard.
Mr. Wright, go ahead.
Well, all you have to do is just stop holding these secret meetings. Stop holding these secret meetings. Conduct the public business in the public. You cannot operate government in isolation and come back and tell us to pay for it. Now, you have the handout, Chairman. If it's offending you, that was not the intent. If I misquoted something, or if I misstated something, I apologize sincerely for it. But I know what I read, I know what I heard. Thank you so much, Chairman, for Cohilas and other members of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. All right. That concludes the public hearing section of the meeting. That will
closed the public hearing. We'll now move on to delegations. This is where the commission can comments on those items pertaining to Dougherty County, for which a public hearing has not been held or scheduled. We ask everyone to be brief to the point, consider the time for others. We'll start with Mr. Forgy, Director of Planning and Development Services, present to provide an update on the 2020 census. Good morning, Mr. Forgy.
Thank you for letting me speak with you today about the census. I have a presentation. You'll be able to see. So as you probably know, I'm the, chair of the Albany-Dougherty Complete Count Committee. And you all and the city formed this committee in order to generate interest in the census locally. We're not the Census Bureau. We don't go out and collect, but we get people excited about it. We get people interested and knowledgeable so they will fill out their census information. I want to give you an update on what's going on, and we'll just start from the beginning about why the census is important. The federal government sends our tax money back to us based on population. So they take the census numbers to figure out how to divide up all the billions of dollars that they send back to local governments. And each depends on which programs you include or which programs are used locally, but for each person, it's about $2,000 to $3,000 per year over the next 10 years that they bring to a community. So for every person that's not counted, that's between $20,000 and $30,000 that does not come back to a community who aren't counted. So you can imagine, it's not just going to be one person that's not counted, it's going to be 10, 100, 1,000, 5,000. So that adds up to a lot of money. That's things like road construction, education, medical care, a variety of different things that people use every day. It's also important based on political power. If we don't have the number of people in the census that we actually have here in the community, we won't get proper political representation on the federal level, but then that also boils down to the state and local level as well. State and local level use population figures just like the federal government does to figure out what the proper representation for an area is. So this is kind of a good news, bad news thing. The good news is we're doing okay. We are, I don't want to compare us to other communities because in the end it really doesn't matter, but we are doing better than Lowndes County, than Columbus, and Augusta, and Macon. So we're doing better than similarly situated counties, but we're still not where we should be. We're below the Georgia average. Right now we're at about 50, I think it might be 56.9 this morning. But, okay, so here you can see the darker blue are areas that have responded to a higher percentage, and the tan and darker brown are areas that have responded to a lower percentage. The area in brown in East Albany only has a 31.9 response rate. So you can see that that's a really small amount of the people in that particular census tract that are responding to the census. Here's a map that we made up showing your commission district and what the general percentage is in your areas. And in general, the county's doing all right, but we're still only at 55 to 60%. We really need to bring those numbers up. Here I mentioned before that we are doing a little bit better than many other counties, Lowndes, Muskogee, Chatham, Richmond, Stewart. But the bad news is that last week the Census Bureau announced, because of the pandemic, the end date of the census was moved. Originally, it was the end of June, the end of July. It was moved until the end of October. Last week, the Census Bureau announced they were going to cut it a month short. So rather than having almost 3 months to go, we now have less than 2 months to go. September 30th is the end date. Starting August 11th, the Census Bureau is sending out enumerators, people who will knock on doors of people who have not responded, and get them to fill out their census form. So now we have less time for them to do that. You still can fill out your forms online or by phone or even in paper, and we, the Complete Count Committee, are trying to encourage people to do that now. It keeps people from having to knock on your door and track you down. So what we're asking everybody to do, particularly people like you who are considered trusted voices in your community and trusted voice, someone who has the respect of their community. They're known within their community. We're asking you to reach out to your particular circles, and particularly if you would call, let's just say 10 people. Call 10 people and tell them how important the census is. Ask them if they haven't filled out their form to do so. Tell them if they can do it online or on the phone, and ask them then to call 10 people and ask that person to do the same. This will get the word out in the community and bring the numbers up. We desperately need to bring the numbers up because this is going to impact us for the next 10 years. We don't have a chance to correct the numbers once they're wrong. There's a few other things. We do have a Facebook page. I don't know how much that's going to get people's numbers up, but we are having a raffle there for anyone who comes on our page and likes it. You can be eligible for, you have to live in the county, you can be eligible for a $25 gift card. And here's information about filling out the form. It takes about 10 minutes. You can call a free toll-free number. You can do it online, or you can do it in person. Very simple, painless. We're going to have events, the limit that we can around the community over the next few weeks. If anybody has any ideas or things that we can do, I'm all ears. Tell me now, tell me some other time, call me later. But we want your input, and we really need your participation to make sure that we get the best count we can. That's all I have.
Any comments or questions, Mr. Ford?
I had one, Mr. Chairman. That map you had showing response by district.
Yes, sir.
Which district is that the highest?
That's District 1.
Is that one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Just checking. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Gang.
Yes, Mr. Forgey, have you done any news events? Have you been invited to talk about it on the media, or just to what degree has the media shown interest in this?
We have done some press conferences. We did one about 3 weeks ago, perhaps.
How many?
3, I believe, 3 or 4, with a couple city commissioners. Last week there were a couple articles, I think, on pretty much every station. We're working with the Albany Herald to bring attention to this in the next week or two, corresponding with some of the events we're planning. So they are helpful, but I think mostly it's been in response to seeing commission meetings or hearing about it first rather than them picking up the story.
Do you know if the radio stations have picked it up, and have we done, I don't recall, I'm not saying we have or have not, I just don't recall if we've done press releases. I believe we did early on, I don't know.
Well, in regards to the radio stations, we are going to be working, we're going to be marketing through the radio stations. We're going to have papers and ads over the next month or so. So we do have a lot of things planned for the next, until the end of the election period. So you will see a lot more about it. You will hear a lot more about it on the radio.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Very much, Mr. Ford. We'll move on. Items for discussion is the regular meeting scheduled August 17th, 2020. Minutes of the July 20th regular meeting and July 27th work session. Comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, we'll move on. Recommendation to accept the bid to provide park improvements to the Turtle Grove area with the lowest responsible and responsive bidder meeting specifications. Lanier Plans Inc., DBA Corcat out of Carrollton, Georgia, in the amount of $198,449. 3 bids were received, with the highest base bid being $325,199.70. The award includes the base bid, deduction of item 2, in addition of alternate 2A. Funding is budgeted in the SWA 7 park improvements. Mr. Addison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
And let me just say, these improvements are much needed.
Yes, sir. These much-needed improvements will enhance the Turtle Park area and consist of some drainage improvements that are much needed, as well as a new rubberized flooring system out there, and some painting, coating of the turtle, as well as replacing the sunshade at the park. And we recommend moving forward and accepting this bid.
Very good. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Being none, we'll move on. Recommendation to accept the quotes to install a thermal temperature monitoring camera system in the judicial building. The recommendation is to award the lowest responsive and responsible vendor, Cooper Craft Albany, out of Albany, Georgia, in the amount of $27,145.14. Three will receive, with the highest being $52,832. Funding will be provided from the general fund. Mr. Addison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These camera systems will consist of two separate systems. One will be a high-volume system that covers the front entrances where the general public comes in. That'll be capable of monitoring 30 individuals per second and will cover all of the access doors there. The second system will be at the sheriff's office entrance, and it'll be a smaller kiosk where employees individually, one by one, can go there. Much more cost effective. We don't need the higher volume system in place. But both of these will be installed under this proposal, and we recommend moving forward.
Thank you for that explanation. I was wondering what the necessity was, but anybody that's attended calendar call at the courthouse and understands how difficult it is for them to process people just going through the security detector. The addition, I understand. That makes sense. Very good. Comments, questions, or discussion on that item? Okay. Recommendation to accept the quote to purchase a 2021 elliptical tanker for the Albany Fire Department from the Source Well Contract Vendor 10A Fire and Safety Equipment of Georgia, LLC, out of Forsyth, Georgia, in the amount of $465,674.58. Funding is budgeted in SWA 7 county fire trucks and equipment. Mr. Adams.
Yes, sir. If the commission will remember, last year we brought to you a recommendation to purchase a side pumper truck for fire department. Originally in SWA, we had planned to purchase 4 trucks at about $310,000 each for a total of $1.24 million. However, with the upgrade in technology, one truck cost us approximately $713,000. So it was the fire chief's recommendation that we purchase that new truck and then a tanker that can supplement the water needs out in the county. He thought that would be a better use of the money. So we're coming back to you now to purchase this tanker, and that will leave approximately $60,000 left in that fund that he has some other needs for equipment. So we'll look forward in future SWAs to replace the remaining trucks. We recommend approval. This is the same vendor that we purchased the other truck from.
I just want to be clear. Is this what the chief spoke to us about in our retreat a couple of years ago?
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Very good. Other comments, questions, or discussion? Thank you very much, Mr. Addison. Mr. McCoy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to remind everybody that all concerned citizens are invited to the public hearing on the proposed tax language. Next one will be next Monday, August 17th, 2020.
Good. Mr. Lee.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gaines.
Nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gray? Commissioner Gray? Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Edwards? Commissioner Hudgens?
I'll say, Mr. Chairman, thank you, though.